Um, so it's fair to say that the mayor, he loves to tout when he's making a decision how he's the CEO, chief executive officer of the city, but these are things that would fall under his purview, and he's ultimately responsible for these. So is it fair to say that old Shady AC, mayor of Godley, um, was negligent in how in the fact that none of these had been done?
I would have to agree.
I mean, if the buck stops at the top, right?
Right. And I mean, it's not even a matter of who is responsible or not. It's a matter of take the initiative and get educated if you don't know. It's okay to say that you don't know, but take the next initiative and say, "Hey, I don't know, can you help me?"
Absolutely. And I mean, this is an evolving, a moving target. So we continually need to learn, and there's so much to do. You can't learn it all at once. So being able to admit what your weaknesses are and move forward is pretty important. So in budgeting and how the budgets were done, the police department, they had no say in their budget.
No say.
Fire department, any say in their budget.
No say.
Parks and Rec,
No
any say?
say.
So no departments, utility, water, none of them had any say in their budgets.
When I asked them about their budget, they had no idea what the budget was, what their numbers were, and how much money that they had to spend.
So budgets are done in the late summer, early fall, if I recall. And basically, if I remember it correctly, you guys were basically, as council members, given a budget on the day you were asked to vote on the budget, and that budget was comprised by one man show who was the former city administrator who walked out on the city when you began asking questions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So here again, the bottom line is this was condoned and endorsed by Shady AC and his ability to just not manage the city effectively and just letting people run roughshod around him. Is that correct?
That is correct. And just to add real quick, the agenda that I edited that landed me in jail was actually the agenda that I had asked to include those items because that was supposed to be the former administrator's last meeting. However, he didn't show up. But I had asked for those items to be on that agenda so that we could speak to him since he was the only one that had the association with that stuff.
And here again, it's ironic how the mayor wants to claim CEO status only when it's convenient. If he wants to hire who he wants to hire or make a decision that benefits him, boy, he'll throw that CEO hat on. But he just plays ignorant, like, well, we've never done it that way, and I never heard any of that. When the most important meat and potatoes of the way the city's run is just being completely neglected by him. Is it fair to say that?
That is fair.
And I mean, I've been watching that city for a couple of years, so I mean, I stand by my assertion of and conclusions of who's doing what, when, where, and how. So you talked about contracts a little bit. So certain individuals operate under a contract, right? Like a legal contract. Different municipal officers might have contracts.
Right.
And when you ask for the contracts for these individuals, the most recent one for the entire city was 1989. Is that correct? And you couldn't even get a copy of it.
Well, that was the contractor, and that was the only contract that I was aware of that we even had. The most recent one would be the city attorney, and it took a long time for me to get that one.
This is with the new city attorney, not
Correct,
the old. No
correct.
one for the old one that
No,
anyone ever saw.
nobody said that there was a contract on file for the former city attorney. And when I asked him for his, he neglected to give it to me.
Sure. And so probably when you began to ask for a forensic audit, which that's a deep dive in the accountability of taxpayer money to determine how taxpayer money was being spent, if it was being spent responsibly, legally, and within the budget of what the city council approved, that began the probably the big turn. Is it fair to say that when you began to ask for that type of accountability, that's what led to you getting in jail? How many times did you ask for that? I know it was quite a few.
Yeah, roughly 9 different times. And up until I was done with my term, the following meeting where the new council took their chairs, they actually were able to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get to the new council and the progress they've made because
Yeah.
it's been great. To be honest with you, it's too bad that you had to take some lumps to get it to that point. But we all have our roles. Hiring, another thing that you identified: police, fire department heads. There's a certain way to hire something, the type of city Godly is, and it requires city council confirmation. And this is another time when Shady AC, Mayor AC McGehee, would wear his CEO hat and unilaterally make a decision and remove the powers of the elected officials. Is it fair to say that?
That is fair to say.
And it looks like they're starting to turn that corner too with the new council.
Correct.
Okay. So let's talk about the chief of police here for a minute. You made complaints on AC when it got to a point that it was obviously he wasn't going to work with you. So you went to the city, which is what everybody else, the county, other law enforcement entities suggested you do. Start at the source, go to the city and file a complaint with the city. And pretty much very, very shortly after you filed the complaint, which went nowhere as far as we know, the interim chief was promoted to the permanent chief, here again, unilaterally by Shady AC. Can you walk us through that piece real quick?
Yeah, so on the 21st of March, I actually sent in my complaint. It was a criminal complaint against AC. And then I had a read receipt, but the read receipt was denied. And so I sent another email asking for clarification that they had received it. Um, Cantrell actually responded to that one. And then 2 days later, I received an email from the chief of police's attorney informing me that I needed to cease and desist and withdraw documents.
That was with the complaint.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we had a meeting on April 4th. In that meeting, I had included an agenda item to post the chief of police job. But when we got to that meeting, AC had stated that we had already had a chief of police. There was no reason to talk about that. So in that statement, I asked him who it was. He said it was Cantrell. And then, and he had been sitting there for a week already. So then my next question was, how do you know, or what were the qualifications? And he stated he didn't know. So I asked him again, okay, so how do you know he met the qualifications if you don't know the qualifications? His statement after that kind of was appalling to not only myself, but the citizens, because he stated that because because he told me he did.
So the CEO of the city of Godley, the mayor, was told the chief of police was qualified, and he got hired based on being told he was qualified to be hired with no council confirmation even ever put out.
Correct. And the chief of police is the one that told him that he was qualified for the job.
So I'm gonna walk through some text here that have been released, detailing how this chief of police has targeted potential candidates and council members who were not aligned with this good old boy cabal, led, looks like, by CEO de facto Shady AC. These excerpts of text are from a conversation with the current chief of police and another individual, David and Cass. So they both tell me I'm a dirty officer and watch me say some of the stuff Cass and David have said, inappropriate stuff to me. Those sorry MFers are the reason why this place is like it is. So he's talking about the city administrator and the former city attorney, the former city administrator, former city attorney there, talking about their being complicit and how things are messed up and how they feel that he's a dirty officer in that one. And then here's another one. Those POSs had us go after one mayoral candidate and 2 council members. I've redacted these names, and tried using us as a force against people that said stuff about them. So those are 2 emails there I'm sorry, text. Those were 2 texts there that basically state that they're going to pick and choose who to investigate. There was also another email here, and that was a little longer, so I'm not going to read it out, to where the chief of police, this is the current chief of Godley Police, was saying, I'm not going to investigate complaints brought by certain individuals because they have an agenda. And these were against the ISD. And I won't lie, I'm familiar with one of these complaints, and it was a family code violation with suicide ideology against a minor, that the school district was complicit in not following up. And he just was refusing to investigate this. So not only did he potentially not address your complaint appropriately, I know complaints that I've done, he hasn't even had me sign anything yet, which absolutely means those aren't even to the part yet that they're considered formal. And he has text messages where he's 100% admitting that he was used as a political tool. So, you brought a complaint against the mayor, and this is when Shady AC appointed him a chief of police. What a rodeo! What a rodeo! So, wow. Before we get caught up on what's happened since then, any last minute comments on these?
So I was actually putting together my timeline and I found it kind of interesting. Um, on the January 3rd agenda, I had included to release uh, Cantrell as the interim chief. That was shot down. Our former I
Administrator, attorney,
no, attorney. There
attorney.
you go.
Okay.
Our former attorney stated that we better not do that. So then that item was tabled. Well, then after that, we had done a special called meeting on the 13th of January, which there was no quorum, so we didn't have that. On January 17th, AC canceled the meeting because he didn't post it. And then February 7th is when I went to jail. So I found that a little bit questionable. Like on the 3rd of January, mind you, the offense that they alleged that I did happened on December 22nd. So there's a lot of time in between there. So
Well, they were sure in a rush to arrest you right in front of city council as you were walking in to vote.
correct. And I feel like the last meeting that I was at was the meeting that I had on there to remove Cantrell as interim. And then, the 13th canceled, 17th canceled, and then all of a sudden on the 7th, I'm taken to jail.
Well, not only did you have those on the agenda, you also had that the former city administrator, the former attorney, and the former court clerk were not going to be eligible for rehire.
Correct.
And now these individuals walked out basically on the city. I think the court clerk might have retired, but the other ones basically walked out and left the city hanging, which alone should be ineligible for rehire, regardless of everything else you've done. And the vote, this AC here again, Shady AC, mayor of Godley, was given the authority to vote in your absence because you were arrested a few minutes before. Charges dropped a couple days later. And here we go with the same old rodeo and these same people just not seeing the writing on the wall with what's coming on here. So, quickly, how do you feel about the new council that's been seated and how they've hit the ground running? I am absolutely thoroughly impressed. Considering how much there is to learn and how fast that these things can move coming at you, I've been thoroughly impressed. What do you think about that before we dive into what they've actually done here?
I could not be more happy. I can't tell you how many times that I sit there and watch them and I literally just get overwhelmed in emotion and I don't cry. So me tearing up, feeling what they're feeling, it's just I don't even have words for it. It's amazing. The way that they challenge and they're not afraid to challenge. The way that Scott Yarborough comes in and has all of his legal information right in front of him. So if somebody says something, he can say, no, that's not true. Misty Rodriguez, she sits there, and if she doesn't agree with something, it doesn't matter who it is, she's going to stand up. David Williams, he's bringing good questions to the table. Roger, he's bringing good questions, good points. Michael Pappenfuss, of course, he's always been one to do his homework. I'm very proud of every single one of them.
I agree. Godley should be proud. And you want to see when citizens get involved with government and they put their foot down and they get out and become a part of the process. You're seeing it right now. And it's horrible what you had to go through, but you should keep a big feather in your cap. Pat yourself on the back because you enabled a lot of this to happen with what's going on. So we're going to walk through here the first two meetings that they've had and talk about what they've actually accomplished. And a lot of this stuff you were trying to get accomplished for months. So what have they done with AC and his little cabal kind of broken up? So I'm looking at the 523 agenda here. So they confirmed a police officer who was a school resource officer. So why are they confirming police officers now? They've never done that before, correct?
Correct.
So the type of city that Godley is, they're required to confirm police officers once they're hired and appointed by the department head or the mayor, whoever's going to appoint them. So why is this an important thing? Well, the chief has never been confirmed by the council. And I know I brought some of this to light, and I got a lot of flack thinking I was against police officers when I wasn't at all. This officer's probably the greatest officer since sliced bread, but he was hired inappropriately. Not only was he hired inappropriately, but he was allowed to be hired from the school district. Here's another example of that. So the city finally got on board and confirmed him and did the appropriate thing. I hope city council, if you're out there listening, confirm these other officers that haven't been confirmed yet. Have a say in it. And hopefully Cantrell, if you want him as chief, confirm him. Put your name on that piece of paper. Don't let AC's decision try to do that. They did it retroactively. The school resource officer was hired for a while, so you can do this retroactive. What were you going to say?
So I recently learned, now mind you, that you have to confirm and include this confirmation in the minutes. But I recently learned that the reason that we do that is so that it makes the police officers eligible to carry the Godley badge and handgun.
And then that's a requirement to do that.
Yes,
from what
sir.
So
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
boy, if I had committed a big crime in Godley, I'd be going to challenging that real quick. Another thing they did, which took them a long time to do last time, is and the reason I'm bringing this up, this is Michael Papenfuss. They reelected him mayor pro tem, and I think that's a great thing. It provides continuity, and he has been a huge insight of knowledge. His ability to research and to kind of wade through some of the drama, it's been really impressive. If AC, I don't know what the process is. If AC, you should resign. Bottom line, I think everybody's trying to. Hopefully, you see the writing on the wall. Everyone's trying to guide you that way. I don't know what the process is to get a new mayor. I don't know if you do a special election, but if they appoint, I think he'd be a great fit if they do it from somebody on the council. What are your thoughts on him and how he's navigated some of the trials and tribulations he's gone through?
Okay, so backstory. When I first joined, I was not a fan of Michael at all.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was not a fan of him. Now, I sat back, I watched, I made my own decisions. If you were to come to me today and ask me my thoughts like you are, I would say that man knows his stuff. He goes to bat for this town. I see him at the park doing work that the employees can't get to. If that's not heart for this town, I don't know what is.
People don't know the lengths he goes to behind the scenes because he does it without fanfare.
Yeah,
As
and
he
he
should, and that's
knows
great.
his stuff.
Selfless service.
What he doesn't know, he figures out. He calls who he needs to call. I mean, it has nothing to do with, hey, I need to look like this, or hey, I need to do this for this person. It has nothing to do with that. It is solely because his heart is in this town.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been a nice rock for a long time. As has Roger Cornelison too. They both have. So another thing they did is they amended the memorandum of understanding with the ISD for the school resource officer. This was more of a formality issue. The school resource officer doesn't do a lot for the city. It's mainly just at the school as intended. So they basically are having the school district pick up the whole tab for this. I still am at my wit's end about the hiring of that and how that hiring went down. I think it was absolutely brutal. And I feel bad for that officer because he should have been hired appropriately through the city and confirmed. Are you good with how they did that? And they got that. It looks like they shored that up. It's finally, it finally looks decent and how that's kind of settling down a little bit.
Yeah, but again, that wouldn't have happened if Michael Papenfuss wouldn't have taken the lead.
Yeah. It's really troubling to see. And we'll talk a little more about these ISDs, PDs and stuff. We're getting ready to go to break. We'll finish up the first meeting here in a minute. And we'll talk about the second meeting and where they go from here. And we'll be back in a moment.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a special message, a company logo, or a custom design, Romika Laser Engraving will help you make your mark. And the best part, our prices are affordable and our turnaround time is quick.
I couldn't be happier with the work Romika Laser Engraving did for me. The engraving on my product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Out of date carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleburne, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleburne, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give him a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered. Out of date carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleburne, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleburne, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give him a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Welcome back to the Breakdown. I'm your host, Greg Cooper. We're here with former Godley City Council member, Jenn Thompson. Before we get into our second segment here, I'd like to give a shout out. Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoco.com is a place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more at jococommunityradio.com. That's jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more is brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. Boy, we had some hail yesterday in Godley, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And that's 844-839-4245, 844-839-4245. And be sure to dress your arms and more at the Tiffy.com. That's some good accessories from Tiffany Carlin, who runs the station. So anyways, welcome back now. So we're on with Jenn Thompson here, and we're talking about the first meeting. And we're going to start off with they're finally talking about doing some budget workshops. So what is a budget workshop? A budget workshop is where the department heads should sit down with some people from the city. The council or elected officials should be involved in this as absolutely, in my opinion, as much as they can.
Right.
Because this is how the taxpayer money is being spent, bottom line. Come to find out, they're beginning to schedule these. Cleburne, the city's been doing it for a couple months now. Kayla over at the ISD, she has yet to even get a date. So hopefully what's over there is not going on. What's going on over there isn't like what's going on in the city. Hopefully she'll have an integral part of that as elected official. But they're beginning to schedule budget workshops. Come to find out, they have never conducted one before. And here again, the department heads, the fire chief, police chief, utilities, works, parks, and all that have never had any say in their budget. So how do you feel about that? And from what I understand, and is this correct, you literally were given the budget to sign off on and vote on the day of the vote. You never had a chance to review it, talk to anybody about it, and anything like that. And that was considered business as usual. Is that correct?
Right. So that was at the beginning of when I took my seat. And because there were a couple meetings canceled prior to me sitting down. But we had our binder, our meeting binder, and that budget was in it, and we vaguely went through it. I remember Michael Pappenfuss asking a lot of questions, and the former city administrator giving very vague and quick answers. So, I mean, it was a hit or miss. Like, you either adopt it today or we don't have a budget.
And they back you up against the time constraints of when they're
Correct.
due.
Correct.
So it looks like the city's beginning to talk about those, and they actually had one that we'll discuss here in a minute. So yeah, they scheduled some dates for those. That's going to be a lengthy, long process. It looks like the posted budget on the Godley city website is definitely in disarray. So hopefully they can get that sorted out. But it's going to take some work. They also discussed the possible and future hires. So the bottom line is they need to hire a city secretary. She's not permanent yet. She's still interim, correct?
Correct.
So they need to hire a city secretary, a city administrator, and a municipal court clerk. Actually, they have hired that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they're putting out the requirements for these, and they're getting them posted and all that. And this is going to undo the unilateral shady AC, I'm the CEO, I'm going to hire who I want decision-making process. And so people say, well, why can't they just hire these people? Well, in my opinion, you should never limit your talent pool. So if you want Godley to be the best, you should expose the hiring process to the largest group of individuals, so you can pull these individuals in and interview them and choose the most qualified, the most engaging person to do the specific job. Whether it's your chief of police, Cantrell may be the best cop ever, maybe the best chief of police ever. He'll never get the benefit of the doubt because of how he was hired. Shady AC did him an absolute disservice, because the bottom line is there was so many rumors with how that went down, and it never got posted. And then the mayor admits to picking and choosing. Walk me through some of the conversations you had as a council member with this, and now with the police chief, who looks like has been compromised with some of their stuff. What is your thoughts on them getting that sorted out? Can they undo some of those? How does that come down?
I mean, at this point, I think the only way to rectify is to clean house. Even if we do have qualified people right now, all they have to do is fill out another application, get hired, and do the proper procedures. The way that the chief of police was hired, it is a big deal because we have grants and stuff
Absolutely.
that require proper procedures in place. Well, if we don't follow those procedures, then we lose those grants, which now he has put a huge liability on us by the way that he did in fact hire that chief of police.
Yeah. And if he's the best and is deserving of the job, he'll rise to the top and he'll shine above all others, and he'll get hired. So there's no reason that you can't undo some of the ways that some of these individuals were hired. Hopefully the council will do it. They got a lot on their plate.
But you don't take the first one that comes through the door. You don't just say, oh, okay, we need somebody, let's hire them. Or, hey, okay, so my buddy has a wife that has somebody, or they need, a job, let's hire them. You can't do that.
Yeah. And Shady AC, he has no business trying to say, oh, time is of the essence, because he had plenty of time with the old council seated and the special meetings that he refused to call. So we won't even go down that road, but he can't straddle that fence, because he made his bet on time the end of last year to the beginning of this year, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we should have never even had the doors closed. We had people that were qualified to do the job. All we had to do is have the meetings that him and the other two council members did not show up to, and we would have had those seats filled with educated people.
Absolutely. Another thing that they talked about, they really didn't get to this yet, and I hope they do, but Wyatt Hamilton Finley, they're the law firm that AC unilaterally hired without, I think council might have confirmed them. I don't know if they did or not.
That was confirmed in the February 7th, and that was one of the ones that he needed the vote
So he voted. That was when you were in. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's so much has happened. It's hard to keep track of it.
When it comes to contracts, as far as monetary goes, it is up to the council to decide on monetary contracts. So with him agreeing to that monetary contract and signing it, he had to get it signed, because if it didn't get signed, there was going to be an issue.
Okay. So I've watched this law firm, and it really doesn't seem like they give a rat's tail about the city, to be honest. They sure do protect certain people. They sure do misdirect and redirect and avoid answering hard questions. But one of my biggest concerns is what is the annual budget for legal fees for the city of Godley
It's roughly 25,000 for the year.
for the year? And this law firm has been hired since December, January.
They signed the contract on January 11th.
So January 11th. So we're looking at 5 months now, give or take. And from what I understand, they've billed over $50,000, and that was as of, I think, April.
Correct.
So they billed over $50,000. So they've gone more than double their budget, probably close to triple now, considering that was, I think, an April bill. That was the total in April.
And that doesn't even include the invoices that we paid for the previous city attorney.
Yeah, because he was getting paid from September to current, right?
Correct.
Or October to current.
And being over budget that much, you need to have a budget addendum.
Absolutely. That's where they call the council in to
never
addendum.
happened.
Yeah.
And they know that it needs to happen, but it's never happened.
That's insane. So hopefully they can sort out this attorney. I know that it looks like there's a new one now, but the same firm, but it looks like they got a new one. She seems to be a little less combative than the other one.
I think they finally realized that the citizens were tired of it.
I hope so. Because watching them engage has been pretty
Or I
troubling.
mean, it could be that I'm not there anymore, so they have no reason to, roadblock anymore.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. This new council's pretty aggressive.
Yeah,
so
they are.
There was also, and I thought this was telling. There was a vote of no confidence on Mayor A.C. McGee's job performance, and the council voted 4-0. There was one abstention. David Williams. Wow, I'm getting wrong government body. David Williams abstained, and I think the jury's still out on him. A lot of people think that he's going to side with AC in the old school. I originally thought that. I can understand him potentially abstaining and wanting to see for himself. I think if you've been watching, you could see incompetence for a long time.
Right.
At the same time, being the first meeting, I can somewhat understand that. I can also understand that if you had watched this man lead these meetings, you could see that he had absolutely no amount of respect for any individual except people that were siding with him.
Right.
And he was incapable of running these meetings effectively and appropriately and just doing his basic job.
Well, I mean, even if you watch the meetings now, everything that is said, he literally tilts his head and says, "Mike."
Yeah. No, he does. Yeah.
So, I mean,
and he's been there a long time, whether it was the
Yeah.
council, or the mayor, he's been there a long time. So this isn't like the first couple months and he's trying to figure it all out. He's been there a long, long time. And
Right.
but this is a game changer for them to come out and publicly state their dissatisfaction and vote no confidence. That's a pretty telling statement. I think that the mayor should resign when that happens. I don't think that there's any questions left to be answered. He hasn't resigned yet.
I think when that happens and you resign, you earn respect.
I think so too. This is the will of the people.
When you do not resign, that's when people start losing respect, because even though the citizens are speaking their truth, even though you've lost the confidence of the council, you don't have any reason to be there after that.
No,
I don't understand what his end game is.
I don't either. I could see him waiting to see how the election went, but the turnout was huge. I mean, no off-cycle elections like that in a May pull a percentage like Godley did. There wasn't. Now he wasn't on the ballot, but the people that were consistently voting with him and aligning with him were beat handily. So there was no question that the people had spoken. And when you look at the voter turnout, this isn't like 1,000 people in a
Wow.
community of 50,000 that came out. This
Right.
was pretty substantial.
And also to add on that, I mean, just like my first statements were, even though he is incompetent on what he's doing, if he would just show the initiative to say, hey, I am here, I want to learn,
Absolutely.
I want to keep being the mayor, tell me what I can do to fix it. But he hasn't done any of that. He ignores everything. He does this hand gestures. He does his eye rolls. He continuously looks at his watch. He doesn't want to be there.
No, I agree. So another thing they did, moving on, a request for proposal for a forensic audit. They finally passed a forensic audit. There were some questions on the scope. I would have liked to see them go back 10 years. I think they're going back 5,
Right.
but I think they'll get enough questions answered to determine how big of a scope they should ultimately do. But I think this was huge. And how many times did you try to get this on the agenda? Did you say?
It was roughly 9 times.
So 9 times you try to get this on the agenda. They wouldn't call special meetings. They kick you out by arresting you. They finally got it done. Good job, council. Way to dig your heels in and hold their feet to the fire. One thing that was brought up a lot on this forensic audit was a lot of the council members were very concerned with a lot of Amazon purchases. I don't know what that entails, but I'm really interested to see how the forensic audit is where it's gonna go when it because I mean there was a lot of questions asked about Amazon purchases, whose account has controls what, how do refunds go back, and how does that money get pushed off. So I'm really interested to see what comes out of that, and I don't know how long that'll take, but that'll be an open records request that I will be sinking my teeth into for sure.
Right.
Here again, they talked more about budget workshops, and they circled back to this. And here again, and I keep talking about budget workshops, but the fact that no department heads have ever had input in budget workshops, and the mayor states he's never done one and has no clue how to do one. You can't wear that CEO hat, Shady AC, for hiring when you say that you don't know anything about a budget. All right. So you either are the CEO and you're going to take responsibility, which if you do, then you should get out of there because you just can't do this job, or you're not, and you're going to go by the council confirmation and do things the way they should. But absolutely, him picking and choosing what he's doing, it's mind-numbingly frustrating. How did you feel about how he picks and chooses those roles before we get into the second meeting they've done here?
I really can't read him because the way that he does what he does, it makes no sense.
It doesn't, and he claims ultimate knowledge in hiring and stuff like that, but budgets, he says, I've never even done one, and I don't even know what one looks like. It's crazy.
It's almost like he doesn't care what it is as long as he has the control. That's all he cares about is
Absolutely.
the control. But why does he need so much control?
Well, it's not set up that way. That the council, it's not set up to work that way. So he needs to go find another position if he wants that kind of power.
Right.
Run for governor. So we're going to move on to the second meeting here. They front loaded the second meeting with the budget workshop, and just a couple highlights of that was the police and fire chief and parks began to funnel in some of their information. And lo and behold, we find out that their vehicles have been horribly maintained in the sense that they all should be out of service. Citizens of Godley, you better get ready to have to spend a lot more money, the bottom line, because the way that it's been mismanaged, and what they're going to need to do to get stuff back up to speed, they're probably going to have to call a bond. That's not this council's fault.
Amen.
They're cleaning up a mess, but you better get ready for it, Godley, because the way that this has gone down and the way this budget's looking, I'm going to be shocked if they can pull this out of their butt without having to cost the citizens a lot more money.
Yeah, and it goes back ages to those councils.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking radios, equipments, and we're talking appropriate equipment, life-saving equipment in a lot of cases. One thing they did in this meeting that they hadn't done in a long time was they did department reports. And I'm going to run through these real quick because there's a couple things I want to get to before we end the show here. But the police department, the chief of police gave a department report. And one of the biggest things that he did was he has a low citation count. So he has astronomical numbers of contacts, but his citation count's very low. And he's blames us on the fact that they haven't been running court for a while because they haven't had a court clerk.
But they're also getting a lot of overtime, so I don't understand that.
Well, keeping the town safe, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But now they have hired a court clerk. We're not going to get into this too much, but it was another questionable hire. It's a vendor's wife, and it never got posted, and then they just hired her, and she doesn't have any qualifications. They're going to have to send her to all the training. Here again, she could be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it wasn't done appropriately. It wasn't put out to competitive hire. So did Godley really get the cream of the crop in regards to this? And you didn't do these people that got these jobs you did them a huge disservice by the way you hired them, Shady AC. You really did. So engineering, I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this. Engineering has been MIA for months. So engineering, probably the biggest things that they do for the city is they do roads, they do wastewater care somewhat, and they do platting for new developments.
Correct.
Is that correct? He's been MIA for a long time.
Since since the past city administrator left.
And when asked why he hadn't been there, he basically said that his temperament, because of what was going on, was not a good fit, so he chose to stay away. That should be a disqualifier right there.
Yes.
If you're admitting that you have a temperament that can't navigate troubled times and troubled waters, then maybe you ought to go find a job where it's a little bit more peaceful and a little bit less stressful for you to do, because the city moves on.
Right. And they had to vote on some plats and not have any time to discuss anything, because it's either they have to either break the law or approve the plat.
Well, and one of the things I want to know is, the way that the Godley's growing and everybody knows it's growing, how many plats came up for submittal that maybe the council never got to approve and went to the 30-day automatic approval process? I'm really interested to see if there's going to be a lot of all of a sudden communities and stuff that's happened and they ever came across the council's desk. I hope that's not the case, but him being gone for so long, it's going to be interesting to watch that.
Well, and too, there's also litigations that are pending per the platting that has gone on in the past.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that here in a second too. Another issue he brought up was the wastewater issue. Has too much ammonia due to airflow, and he's known for a couple months, and I had never heard any of that before.
Me either.
And that sounds like a pretty important thing. Maybe it's not, but that should have been like reported as soon as it was happening. Maybe it was and I missed it in context.
Yeah, health and safety is number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And he also reiterated the fact that I think everybody knows is they need a new wastewater treatment facility, and they've really gotten behind the 8 ball in selecting one. It takes a long process. If I remember, the permit process alone is like 18 to 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
So now what people should also remember with this is the ISD was going to try to build a wastewater treatment facility on their bond, not their role. They're not a municipality. It was going to be on 2331 at a new school complex up there towards Sky Road, not quite that far out there. And then they were going to allow residents to tap into it. So I was really interested to see if that bond passed, how they were going to navigate that, because that's not their role. They were talking about TxDOT surveys and that type of wastewater treatment facilities. School districts, stay in your lane, man. Get rid of these massive bonds. Stay in your lane. There was some plat approvals that got approved. Those seems pretty standard. But back to the engineering and platting approvals, they did discuss an interlocal agreement between Johnson County and Godley, to where the county's actually asking the city council to allow them to plat in their ETJ, opposed to the city of Godley using their engineers to the plat. Did you catch how that went down at all? Do you want to comment on that at all?
Well, I mean, what the county commissioner brought to the table, I thought was a great idea. I mean, it's not going to cost the city anything.
Well, it's going to save money because they're paying now for it. They're going to pay it. It's going to save them.
And then not only that, it's going to protect us from litigation. It's also going to make sure that we turn our stuff in on time. And then all of the citizens that are going to have to come back and rectify everything that has gone wrong up till now. If Johnson County takes that over, they're not going to have that responsibility.
Well, and the way I understood this is the county is asking to plat because they are the permit issuers in the ETJ, and Godley, now their engineers approving these plats, recommending approval, but the county, the way I understood it, and I hope I'm not misquoting this, but he said that there's litigation out there because Godley is approving plats that the county cannot issue permits for because the two are not cohesively symbiotic. And this will eliminate that because they will only issue plats and approve plats based on the ability to issue permits. And they also guarantee a 10-day response, which will prevent what happened with Carroll Farms going past the 30 days. So it seems like a lot of checks and balances and a lot of money to be saved. And they were also trying to help out with some grants to help with some of the roads. So the county seems to be hopefully maybe coming to the rescue of the town a little bit. And take some stuff off the council's plate.
I think that would be the way to go, especially even if it's not permanent. Let them do it now. We are not in a state.
Yep.
We're not in a state to take care of all of that right now. We have a lot of fires to put out and not enough water to put them out.
Absolutely. So here we're back on the second meeting of the new city council. They confirmed another new officer here again, reiterating that they know how to do it correctly. And hopefully, Godley City Council, you'll confirm those officers that are working there that haven't been confirmed. Do it properly. Make sure that you're within compliance of all that, especially the chief. And if you want to open that up to hiring, go ahead and open it up because Godley deserves the best chief and best officers they can get. And if those are it, they'll rise to the top. That's the bottom line. I'm a big fan of competitive hiring. And I think that Godley deserves the best officers that they can get. And it looks like they're now getting them and they're doing it the right way. And that's great.
Right.
There was something that was brought up, and this was news to me, but they brought up a missing fire truck and brush truck that was parked at the end of some street and now's gone. And nobody seems to have any recollection of this.
Right. And the mayor also stated there was no paperwork, but apparently it had been traded for some work that had been done.
That's what I got from that. So
yeah,
somebody did work for the city and the city took an asset owned by the city and traded that for labor. I don't remember ever seeing that as a city council vote.
No. And luckily one of our new council members made it apparent that it was illegal, and the attorney actually agreed with her.
And hopefully they'll figure out where these assets are, because even if they're old, they're still worth money.
Yes.
And they still have to be accounted for.
But there's also a process. And if you don't follow that process, again, it opens up to liabilities.
Absolutely. So as we get ready to close here, there was a lot of formal policies that were instituted. They did a great job with effectively neutering Shady AC. They took away a lot of his power. You wanted to give out some thanks. Go ahead and shoot out those thanks as we wind this down.
Yeah, so Judge Bodeker, thank you for responding. And then also Pete Wrench, thank you for everything that you've done. And the new council, keep it going. You guys are doing a phenomenal job.
Thanks. We'll see you next week on The Breakdown.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Hey, Travis.